My name is Jackie Windh, and I'm one of the contributors to the book First Nations of the Pacific Northwest: Change and Tradition. This book was published in Germany. It's actually the museum catalog for an exhibit that was on display at the Westphalian Museum of Natural History in Münster for 13 months over 2005 and 2006. The book and the exhibition were both put together by the museum's director, Dr. Alfred Hendricks. My friend Joe Martin was commissioned to carve a dugout canoe, a totem pole, and 2 house posts for the exhibit, and his sister Mary did some cedar bark weavings for it too. I did the color photos for the main part of the book, as well as a project about residential schools, a series of 16 interviews and portraits of residential school survivors. This book has never been available in Canada. That's why I've decided to import it myself. I think it's really important for all Canadians to know what happened, and especially to hear the stories that these residential school survivors have to tell, because these things have not been talked about much in our country. Hopefully, this will help all Canadians to know what actually happened here and to understand why there continue to be social issues in many Native communities today. Here's Joe.
Hello, my name is Joe Martin. My native name is Nupitutchit. Comes from the house of Ewas of Ploquet, here on the west coast of Vancouver Island. And I've been involved a bit with this museum in Germany, the Westphalisches Museum for Naturkunde. I went and traveled there. First time was in 1993, or 1992 actually, and then again in 1993. Well, anyhow, I've had 6 different trips over there, and during the course of that time I did meet people from this museum. So when they commissioned me there was a totem pole, 2 house posts, and a dugout canoe that was commissioned by this museum. So I began working and doing that. It was about a year and a half or 2 years that it took to fill this commission. But at that time, I decided to finish all that, and got it all finished with the late Henry Nola, who carved the totem pole with us, and then I carved the canoe with Lynn de Rosier, carved these 2 house posts. So these all of these crests on totem poles, they're all about different creatures and things in our lives, and basically all about natural law. So anyways, from all of this work that I did, and I've learned a lot about our culture since I was very, very young. My grandparents were my first teachers, and then my father, and then of course other people in my life. And so from that, I learned a lot about our culture and what it all means. So after I began finishing this commission for the museum, I began to realize how important these things are, because a lot of people in from Europe or Western culture, if you will, that just didn't really know an awful lot about our culture, began to learn about it through these ways, through us carving totem poles and explaining exactly what they are. Because they're not just pretty things that are on a totem pole. Like I say, basically what they are is it's our constitution. We didn't have teachings and writings like white man, but we have had teachings through these crests and totem poles, which began as soon as we were conceived by our mothers in former times. So after our people have been interfered with by the church and the Indian Act, that really changed our lives an awful lot. And so what we have in many of our communities these days is what I call the residential school syndrome, because people are affected by that at a very early childhood. Many cases like 5 or 6 years old, when they were forced from home to those schools. So it really affected the people. And so what we have today, people didn't ask to be this way. They just got like that from the church and the Indian Act. It's not our fault. And so it's a long, slow healing process to get back to a somewhat healthy community. and certainly do appreciate that people will be interested in it. So I hope that people will be interested in reading more and finding out in this book about what it's all about, because it's I think that there's some very useful information in there for you, so people can understand each other's cultures a bit better. And thank you very much.